seen a video last week and again today about some Christians that were, being attacked by a group of Antifa members not too long ago in Seattle, Washington. I'm going to go ahead and bring this video up for you guys, and then I'm also just going to discuss some other things that have come up today. So let me go ahead and let me go back to the screen here. Let me add it on here, and we're going to get going. Okay, guys, so check this out. Let me jump over here.
Johnson is the lead pastor of the Pursuit Northwest Church, and he helped organize both events in Seattle, and he joins us now. Pastor, it's good to see you tonight. Tell us what you saw and heard when things began to develop into chaos and unrest.
Yeah, it was crazy. It started on Saturday with a worship event in Cal Anderson Park. And that event has, of course, been labeled by the media as some sort of anti-LGBT type rally, and it wasn't. That event offered free haircuts to kids, free bike giveaways, free groceries for the community, free prayer for people who were in need of it, and then it also incorporated a worship element at the end of that outreach, and that was when we were swarmed by hundreds of Antifa militants. And I'll only correct one thing in the reporting of your story. They weren't throwing water balloons. They were throwing water balloons filled with urine at Christians who stood in the park and were assaulted for the high crime of worshiping Jesus in a public space. So that happened on Saturday, and then the mayor followed it up. An hour after that event ended, police officers were hospitalized, good church people were injured. He followed that up with a press statement blaming the church for the violence and saying that we are advocating values that are antithetical to Seattle's values. Yeah, so at that moment, Pastor, I decided...
Yeah, Pastor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a local Fox reporter spoke to one of the protesters to give viewers some context about where they're coming from, about what exactly they took issue with. Check this out.
Today was a very good example of two sides of people trying to be heard. On one side, I saw a lot of hatred. These people that tell us they love us are showing us the opposite.
She's dressed like a rabbit with a slit eye thing. I don't really get that, but you heard her point that you guys hate them. They feel put upon, and they were just expressing themselves.
Yeah, Antifa is made up of petulant children who are grievance mongers, who decide to perpetuate violence against people that they disagree with. And of course, in a place like Seattle, they are coddled and supported by people like Mayor Bruce Harrell. Their voices are amplified by liberal news outlets like the Seattle Times. And in doing so, it creates a perfect storm that results in violence against people of faith, police officers, and others. And so after the mayor put out his statement and blamed us for the violence, I said we're taking the rally to the front steps.
I just want to mention this really quick, you guys, is, what family values were they promoting exactly that were so offensive? Probably man and woman coming together to make children, and they probably weren't, and even if they were saying that, so what? Right? Like, that is the truth at the end of the day. And, we have to get back to that kind of reality that we need families to be strong. We don't need people who don't even know if they're a man or a woman making decisions for the rest of the world. They are obviously extremely confused. But it was just kind of interesting how that got brought up into the scene. Let's go ahead.
Of City Hall. And that's exactly what we did on Tuesday. And similar things happened. Antifa was out in force. They bloodied and beat up good church people who stood in line to try to get into a rally to sing hymns and worship songs and pray for the direction of the city. And the mayor put out a second statement, even worse than the first. And he said, well, the only reason you're rallying at City Hall is because you are opposed to the idea that I am biracial. I mean, it's a clown show with these leftist agitators supporting politicians who are so out of touch with.
Well, and it's true. How many Christians would go to a, group of drag queens or whatever and attack them? They wouldn't, because people they can do that stuff here in the United States if they want to meet together. But you would not find a group of Christians going there and throwing water balloons filled with urine at other people and physically and violently attacking them just because of their presence, right? And then, of course, they always turned it into a race thing. Oh, it's because I'm biracial. No, because people are literally getting attacked in your city and you're doing nothing about it. Right now, you guys have to remember, a lot of times these places that have these Democrat strongholds, they need those people to vote them back in. So if they were to correct them and say, hey, it's not freedom of speech when you physically attack somebody, okay, they would lose their votes. They would lose their voting base. Anyway.
I think a wide swath of their constituents. And I think Mayor Bruce Harrell terminated his political career by releasing those statements. There was a show of force. Thousands came out to City Hall.
Yeah, well, I scanned the crowd in the videos that I got access to, and it was a very diverse crowd. I mean, I don't understand the biracial comment at all, because there seemed to be a lot of Hispanic folks there. There were some African-American folks, white people, young, old, a lot of families. Part of what the rally was about, I thought, was the concern about the transgenderizing our youth, correct? Wasn't that part of it?
Yeah, and it included testimonies from parents. It included testimonies from people who have detransitioned after succumbing to trans ideology. And it was shared in the context of uplifting, hopeful. God can change anything. Jesus has the power to transform your life. So it wasn't this, Westboro Baptist hateful rhetoric. It was people sharing a hopeful, optimistic outlook on what it looks like when God begins a work in your life.
Are Christians welcome in Seattle, in your view, to publicly express their views if they're traditionally held?
No, clearly not. And in fact, the mayor put that in his statement. He said in the future, he is going to deny religious groups the ability to pull permits to hold similar worship-themed events in public places.
Well,
which
he
is,
said
by
he's
the
a
way,
Christian.
now.
Yeah, but he says, look, I'm a Christian, and he said First Amendment rights do need to be upheld, and that's why you were able to go to the park. That was a park that had been dedicated in some way to the LGBTQ cause, and that kind of made them upset. But you got the permit to do it where you did it, and it wasn't even your first choice. I know that's too much information for most people, but he's pushing back on you. He said they did get to speak, they did have 2 rallies, and now they're whining about it, basically.
Yeah, after Antifa hospitalized people, after people got hit in the face with urine-filled balloons, after Antifa members performed lewd sex acts in front of children getting free haircuts, yes, after paying a massive price for the high crime of exercising our First Amendment rights, yes, we were allowed to have some sort of event. And the mayor is so out of touch with the people. And you're right, that rally was super diverse, because here's what happened. When we announced that we were taking this to the front steps of City Hall, I got inundated with emails and texts and DMs from people who are not Christian and not conservative, who were outraged at the mayor's response, who said, you know what, we're going to come stand with Christians at City Hall because we believe in the First Amendment.
Well, this is what Seattle voted for. So you had the demilitarized zone, you had the Chaz, you had all this stuff. This is what the people of Seattle voted for. It's a beautiful city, spectacular natural resources, beautiful. But this cannot continue. Pastor, thank you for sharing your story. We'll stay on this.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get that off there. Now, another video that I'd seen today, it was kind of the commentary of the Hodge twins. Yeah, because they did mention that it had to do with, promoting family values. I didn't know that, they were talking about transgenderizing the youth and the detransitioning. But that's the other side of the coin that needs to get talked about, right? They're promoting it and they're pushing it, but no one's talking about the repercussions of that behavior, okay? And, I guess I was also told that they were calling everybody in the group fascists and this or that. You guys, I've never really studied fascism or anything like that, but, I like to look words up. So fascism, far-right political ideology characterized by authoritarianism, ultra-nationalism, and militarism. So basically promoting military ultra-nationalism, right? What is nationalism? It's when you care about your country. I don't understand why we don't have more Americans that would when your country is $36 fucking trillion in debt. Why wouldn't you care about your country? Why wouldn't you care about jobs and people having jobs to work, right? Why wouldn't you care about being able to produce goods in your country if they're needed, right? And everybody thinks that Trump's a fascist just because he's putting this country first. This country's on life support. Do you know how many people have been elected in the office that have completely destroyed this nation? They outsourced all of our natural resources, everything in this country that Americans have relied upon, and supposedly, especially pharmaceuticals, 80% of that or more was made over in China, right? So it's like, from what I understand, he wants to bring all of that back here so people can have jobs here, so we can have our own natural resources here, and then that can't be used against us if this so-called nation wants to turn their back on us. Why would anybody trust China so much? What has China done to show us that they're trustworthy besides steal information and look at how they treat their own people? Okay. So I just don't understand why that's an issue. What's wrong with building up our military? How many people in the United States have either served or sent their sons and daughters off to defend this nation? Why? Because of what it stands for, right? The Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. That has to be defended. Now, I'll tell you right now, the people that have joined this country, they do it because they love it. Now, we have a lot of people we've elected that don't even know what the frick they're doing in office. They're not defending our nation. They're not defending our individual rights. And that's what it'll say too about fascism is strong, charismatic leader who suppresses opposition and prioritizes the perceived interests of the nation or race above individual rights. Okay, so prioritizes the perceived interests of the nation or the race. Okay, tell me what race in this country has been getting, quote unquote, stepped on. Hasn't it not been white people? Have they not been the new blacks, per se? If you're white, you're a scum. And everybody seems to think that's okay these days. So tell me how, who created that? Was it not actually the last administration, who started elevating a certain races, elevating the black race and any other race except for whites? Because in their eyes, nobody's created equal, even though that's what the Declaration of Independence says, right? All men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Everybody's equal, but for some reason, the media and the people we've elected over the years have brought racism back into the country. And I think most Americans can see it. That's why Trump got voted in, because we got tired of them shoving that shit down our throat. Americans got tired of having our elected officials shove racism down our throat, shove transgender shit down our throat, all of that. That's why he got voted in. Got tired of the massive spending that's been going on. And I haven't looked this up, you guys. I need to look into this. But the big, beautiful bill or whatever, supposedly there's a lot of bullshit in that as well. Okay, why can't our legislators create a bill, one piece of paper that says, okay, fine, no tax on tips, all the things that Trump had talked about. I don't know how many pages this bill was, but supposedly, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene or article I read, and maybe it was the Epic Times, it's going to cost over $2 trillion for this bill. How the fuck is this bill that's supposed to help costing $2 trillion? Can't Congress create a bill without spending money? Wouldn't that be amazing? Who are all of these worthless fucks? I'm just wondering, who are these people? Now, here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't even read the bill either. She even said it. She was like, oh, I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't know that it was going to give the states 10 years, something to do with AI. I posted it yesterday, you guys. I should definitely read this bill myself and share it with you. But basically, all of these extra things that they put in. Anyway, the point is the president wants to help the country, but he can't do certain things unless he goes through Congress. The legislative branch we have, most of them, I think, are pieces of shit, in my opinion. All right, they spend. They say that they stand for certain values, and then they turn and do things, and it completely is against what they said. But let's go back to the whole fascism thing, right? So, perceived interests of the nation above individual rights. Okay, tell me, during COVID, what happened to individual rights? Did they not go to complete shit underneath the Biden administration? Did you have the right to, what happened if anybody protested mask mandates or COVID shots or talked about vaccines or talked about the shit of masks? You got censored, you got shut down, you got demonized, right? They said that you didn't care about public health, that you were a conspiracy theorist, all this shit, and the truth has been coming out, and guess who was right? Everybody who opposed the bullshit, okay? They threw constitutional rights out the fucking door when Biden was in office, right? They took your First Amendment and they wiped their ass with it. They shut all the churches down. Who was that? Was that not the Biden administration? And you want to sit here and you want to say that the current, with Trump's administration, they're a bunch of fascists? Let's look back at history, you dumbasses, because that is absolutely not true. And that's the problem. I don't think very many people do look back at history. They don't. They don't even know what communism is. I was thinking about that today, right? I was watching another video. I guess today was the anniversary of the celebration of communism. You guys know what communism is? It's when they abolish all private property. Do you think that sounds like a good idea? When they take all your private property from you and you can't do shit on it unless you got permission from the fucking government? Is that what you guys want? That's the fucking reality of it. I don't give a fuck what they tell you. Okay? Socialism, what's that? Guess what? You don't work for profit no more. You work for use. Okay? So you work to use childcare, you work to use welfare, you work to use whatever they perceive good and services you would need, but you do not work for profit, you work for use. There is no private property underneath socialism because guess what? They tax the shit out of your check. They take all your money so they can supply all the social services. That is socialism. It's just high tax. Now, you guys, we've already seen that in our country. They tax the shit out of us. They tax the American people so much that a lot of Americans, especially our children, right? I got a 23-year-old son, about to be 23. He could barely buy a house if he wanted to. Why? Because the housing has been so freaking high, right? There's a trailer that's not too far down the road from me. When I moved here in 2020, they were going to sell it for $14,000. It's a 1970 trailer. It was basically a piece of shit. Okay. It was a turd for real. $14,000. You know how much they sold it for to somebody who was desperate to live in a place? $37,000 for a hunk of shit. Okay. That is not right. And that's exactly what they've done. They've inflated everything because everybody left the bullshit states that locked the states down, locked businesses down. This is why shit went insane. People were desperate to get out of the states they were in underneath the last administration, okay, who basically took away all your First Amendment rights. Yeah, you couldn't have your business open. They completely locked you down in your house for how long? Remember? 2 weeks to slow the curve and all this bullshit they said for years. Did you know it took Washington State almost 2 to 3 years just to open up their state again fully for all businesses to be running? What does that tell you about each individual governor, each individual mayor? Were they not the fascists of the time? If they're going to take your individual rights away and prioritize the nation, what was the priority there? Well, everybody's sick. We got to protect everybody's lives. It's for the good of everybody. Who are the true fascists? It was them. All right. And so now because of people's ignorance and their lack of going and actually looking at a book themselves, they buy into this shit. People are losing their damn minds. And so let's see here. It says fascism rejects democracy, liberalism, and other forms of social and economic organization that emphasize individual liberties, right? So basically, individual liberties are put aside for the good of the nation. Well, I'll tell you what. That happened underneath the last administration. And it still happens, you guys. Look what's happening in other states right now. Look what they're doing with the Second Amendment. certain states, what was it, Maine or something? You can't have certain, there's still like a ban on AR-15s and stuff like that, even though that's your second fucking amendment. And it says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, even though these people in these states are still infringing upon people's Second Amendment rights. So this shit's been going on for a long time. America's been in decline, not only because on the executive level, but really on the legislative level, people have gone to complete shit. But I wanted to show this to you guys today because there are people out there that literally think that Christians do not get persecuted in the United States. I beg to differ. Okay. The fact that Christians who have gone to their local school board and were complaining about what was happening. You guys remember when they're bringing all those books in, the super sexual books, the explicit content of people having sex together and how to jerk somebody off and all that shit. That shit was in these books. Parents were reading it to the school board. They're getting offended because this is not appropriate, but they want to keep that shit in the libraries. Parents were fighting against that. People were upset about their churches being shut down. People were upset about their businesses being shut down. All right. And a lot of those people that stood up have been Christians. Okay. Why? Why has it always been Christians that have stood up against bullshit government? Because we know and understand that God has given us the rights that we have. They never came from man. Christians are a threat to every type of government that would seek to keep and steal individual liberties or throw them away. Because we know that our individual liberties came from God. Now, we have a lot of cowards in our legislative office who actually don't see it that way. If they did, why would they pass legislation the way that they do as far as taking away your Second Amendment rights and just all the shit that they've done over the last 5 years? You guys go back and look at what's happened. All right. And so it's just interesting to see these things going on. So in the dictionary, fascism, it talks about, let's see here. The crushing of opposition by means of secret police, emphasize the supremacy of the state over the individual, which we already talked about that. Fascism, and let's see here. Exercise the centralized autocratic, is that how you say it? Autocratic control over the activities of all individuals, especially through the economic agency of state corporations. So anyway, it's just amazing that people actually think that Donald Trump is a fascist, when the truth is our country is in bad shape. Okay. 36 trillion in the hole. Americans can't buy their homes. They're struggling right now. We know, I'm hoping that things are going to turn around. Right. But we need people who are going to prioritize our individual rights and our nation. What good is individual rights if you don't have a country that has jobs and economic prosperity, capitalism? If individuals don't have the ability or the means to produce wealth, because it's all been freaking taken away or taxed to shit, and you can't buy nothing. Oh yeah, you have rights, but you don't have a job. You have rights, but you can't work, you can't make money, you can't buy a house, you can't take care of your family, right? Because you don't have the means. So everything goes together. You need both. You need your individual rights to protect yourself against tyrannical government. And you need to also have a strong nation so you can have a strong economy and people can prosper, right? So people can have an opportunity to buy homes, build up their families, do all the things that God told us to do, be fruitful and multiply, And so for somebody to say that Christians aren't being persecuted in the United States, you're walking around with a sheet over your head. You don't really understand what's going on. Christians are getting persecuted everywhere, standing up against the drag shows because they don't want their kids seeing some dude walk around with glitter on his dick. I mean, come on, this is vulgar, but it's true. This is the shit that people have to look at every day and they get tired of it, right? And then these same little groups whine and cry, right? But it's like, you know what? If you want to be perverted, keep it to yourself. It's not, freedom of speech, right? For you to be disgusting. It's like, no, I don't think that's what freedom of speech was intended to do, right? Was for you to violate someone else's freedom of speech, right? Because that's what they were doing. They think that, you don't like what I'm doing. You're talking bad against me. So now I'm just going to start attacking you physically because I don't like it and infringing. So guess what? It doesn't matter if you don't like it. I don't like it when they say that, but I want the same opportunity to say what I want to say too. That's the beauty of the United States. And that's the other thing that's been going on, you guys, is the censorship. They're still censoring Americans today. Don't tell me they're not. especially Twitter. I don't know what happened with Twitter. I don't have a Twitter account, but I've noticed from talking to my friends, the Twitter algorithm has changed. Okay. It is highly censored now. And I don't know who's bought it or who's in control of it. Obviously, it's somebody that is all into censorship. And you guys knew censorship was going on during all the COVID Biden bullshit and his little people that he hired. He wasn't running the country. We know that bullshit he was. And that's a whole nother thing, right? And anyway, you guys, I just wanted to share that all with you. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but I just wanted to discuss this a little bit. There is Christian persecution going on in the United States. It's just not heads getting cut off. Okay. So anyway, you guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. You guys look into these bills that are getting passed, pay attention, to actually what's going on. They're going to say things, but you have to ask yourself, is this really true? Is Trump really a fascist? What is a fascist? What actions, behaviors is Trump taking that would show that he would be a fascist, right? You guys, there's a lot of crazy countries out there and crazy leaders. We need a strong military. Did you know that the president's job, just by its title alone, is commander-in-chief, and his job is to protect the United States from foreign and domestic threats? Why would you not have a strong military for that? Okay? I mean, it's like anybody who has guns at their house, you're going to protect your house, right? You need to protect yourself. And what's been going on? Let's bring that up too. Who left the border wide open and allowed millions of illegals to pour in here who've been murdering the lives of American citizens, raping women and children, right? This has been going on. People's houses in Tennessee, different parts of Tennessee, have been getting robbed and broken into by groups of illegals because their mayor is a piece of shit and doesn't want to follow constitutional law. Okay? Do you guys know what group of the legislature makes the naturalization laws? It's the legislative branch. Okay? It's underneath Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. The legislative branch is the group that gets to make the naturalization laws. So laws have been established. You guys know how many laws that they make during the year? It's thousands. Thousands of laws. You only know about the couple that are, get broadcasted on the news. But that's the point. This last administration underneath Biden, and it wasn't him running the country, it was Obama, and we already know this, allowed millions of people to come in. We're taking up our resources, okay? When Americans were already struggling, when they're taxing the shit out of you, when you lost your businesses, lost your homes underneath the pandemic, and now you got to start from the bottom up because these pieces of shit ruined everything. And now they're allowing people who actually hate this country to come in here. They're not here to actually support our country. They're here to try to take it over, right? You guys remember what was happening in California when all these people were like trying to make Mexico and California? Once you jump your ass back over there and go back to Mexico then. But a lot of people have come over here. Oh, let's also bring this up. What's happening right now in different parts of Texas? And I think it's, Michigan? Which state is that has a shit ton of Muslims that seem to have this idea that they want to take over America by like 2050? Have you guys heard about that? Did you guys know this is why Donald Trump and Elon Musk were encouraging Americans to have babies? Because people in Muslim countries know and understand they don't give a shit about Christians, by the way. You guys know that, right? Why do you think Christians get murdered in Muslim countries? They want to bring the Muslim bullshit to the United States, okay? They want to make their shit primary here in the United States. And it's going to take time to do it. So that's why they have so many children, because they're going to teach their kids these things, and they're going to teach them Sharia law, and they're going to teach them to try to take over the United States using our fucking process. Isn't that bullshit? This is how crazy it is. They learn our system of government and they use it against us so they can destroy us. And that's exactly what they want to do. And so people thought, oh, Trump wants Americans to have more babies and this or that. Like it was weird. You guys are fucking stupid and don't understand how generations carry on. They do. You're not going to have the culture of the United States and people standing up for their individual rights and Second Amendment. If you got a bunch of fucking Muslims that come over here and raise up their kids and teach them to hate us and then just go ahead and take over. And all of a sudden you're the minority. And all of a sudden they're coming for your head, just like they do in other countries. Don't tell me that's not what they want to do. Okay. And so that is the reality of what is going on. And so people need to wake their asses up and stop. Number one, if you're a Christian, do you believe that God gave us the United States? Like, do you believe the United States is the only nation in the world where you can actually live out what God intended? Okay? That we have our rights come from him. He's told us to rules to do, multiply. We learn from God. He's the one who gives us everything. And you don't answer to no man. You answer to him. That's why our government was set up the way it was. But that's the beauty of what we have. And we've got people in this country who want to take it away from us, who are trying to use and are using. There's some pretty big Muslim strongholds down in Texas right now too. They want to build their own little city down there. And if you're not a Muslim, I guess, keep you out and you have to pay a certain tax. And they want to just keep building from the inside out. Watch some of the videos that are out on social media talking about this shit. If you're an American citizen, you should say, fuck that. This is our country and we're not letting you fuckers take it from us. They should be packed and get the fuck out of here, because when you take an oath to the Constitution and you're in public office, you swear an oath to this document. They're not doing that. They're violating their constitutional oath. And it's in plain sight. And, especially, what is that part? I thought it was in the Article 1. No, it might be in Article 3 of the Constitution. But there is a spot in here that talks about, people coming in here and basically how they're behaving, right? Like causing, what was it? It's not terror, but there have been people in office who have, is this it? No, this is something different, but it still applies. So this is Article 4. Section 4, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each one of them against invasion. How many people in our government protected us against invasion during Biden? They didn't. They allowed the invasion. These people are pieces of shit. And it's terrible. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's look at this one. Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. How many times has our legislative branch given aid and comfort to our enemies? How many people say they hate the United States and we give them money? Muslim countries hate us, but they want our resources. Chinese, like all of them, they're jealous of what we have because, it's not only that. Their government is so controlling. And if their people that are held underneath of them actually knew that our declaration and our Constitution could be used for them, they would lose all their power. This is why they don't want this information out, right? I don't think the declaration is just for the United States. I think it's for every individual in the world. That is why there have been people who have fled here from communist nations so they could experience what we have. You as an American citizen have a responsibility to know this and defend it. Do you want your children living in places like China or North Korea? No healthcare, no electricity. You're starving to death. I just watched a video today over in communist China, or was it in China? You're starving so much you learn how to trap rats. Do you want your kids eating rats because they're so poor because the government took everything from them? Right? Got rid of capitalism because it's evil and the rich man suppressing the working man and all this bullshit that they say. And so they say, we're going to fix it for you guys because we know better than they do. Same individuals that you think are pieces of shit, you're putting them in power. How are they any better? Another human being. Like, you really think that the government is actually going to look out for the people? Oh, yeah, this bad rich guy. Capitalism is evil. That's what they say. And then they take over because you're like, yeah, they're going to help the little guy. And then they're going to take all your shit. And then you're going to starve to death and live in a dirt fucking hut for the rest of your life. Is that how you want it to be, America? That's how it's going to be if you don't pull your head out of your asses and start knowing your Declaration and your Constitution and standing on your fucking authority that you have as an American citizen that God gave you. Yeah, this kind of shit fires me up. Because how could you sit and look at what we have and watch the shit burn? It's crazy. When there's other people here, illegal aliens, I will call them, and people who are citizens of this country, but are aliens because they're loyal to another country. Did you know that's what makes them an alien? There's no loyalty to the nation. You can be a citizen here, but that doesn't mean that you're loyal to the United States. There are plenty of people who are citizens, but want to destroy what we have. Okay? That's what they want to do. And so that's why you got to pay attention to what's happening in different states. Pay attention to what's happening. What is I believe it is Michigan up there. What's that? Rashida Tlaib? Dude, she hates the United States like crazy. She's hanging out with people that are talking about, the belly, get rid of the beast. They see the United States as evil, but she's in power. How the hell did that bitch get in there? Why? Because all the people that have come in and vote her ass in, all the illegals. Did you know certain states you don't need photo ID to vote? Why do you think they're trying to push that anyway? Photo ID for voting. People are like, oh, that's not fair. The people who say that the loudest are the ones who rely on the crooked ways of getting voted in. I did a video on this, you guys. You guys got to pay attention. There's states out there where you don't need any kind of proof to show that you're a resident of the state. And I believe Michigan's one of them. So you can just go in there and be like, sure, I vote for this guy. Why do you think that there's so many different strongholds? Because of their shitty ass rules. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to, like I said, share that with you guys. People say there isn't any persecution in America. Yes, there is. People talk about, it's Trump's a fascist. Bitch, you don't even know what fascism is. Not at its true core. If you did, you wouldn't call him a fascist. You should educate yourself to look at the debt the United States is in and think, wow, that's actually not a good idea. You should want to have a country that has jobs and has people that can create businesses. Because that's the other thing that's funny. People will bitch about rich people, but how many of these people that bitch about rich people actually have companies? They don't. They work for them. You need the rich guy who decided, you know what? I'm going to start a business and I'm going to produce this thing or this service and I'm going to hire people so they can work and we can do this thing. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have that ambition, but apparently not enough. That's why there's so many people that work for companies, right? But doesn't that same company that you bitch about provide your salary? Why don't you get out and start a business then? Oh, it's so hard. Well, then stop bitching. Don't destroy the system that creates prosperity, right? Again, when will communism and socialism ever help any country? Remember, socialism, you work for use, not for profit. How many of you want to go to work and not get any of your paycheck? Wouldn't that be total bullshit? You'd be so frustrated. That's socialism. Communism, there ain't no private property. You don't own shit. Why are you worried about buying a house when you just live in a building, right? And you just work for use. So they get rid of all private land, all private homes, and then the government or your city government or whoever just builds up this housing and you can go live in this little shitty ass apartment and you get to, as long as you go to work, you can live there, but you don't own anything, right? That's what they want to do. And now we have a president who was like, wait a minute, we need people to be able to start businesses. So how do you start a business? You have to have money. If the taxes are too high, you don't have money to start a business. Why do you think the president's acting Congress? Trump can't just get his ass in there and say, I'm going to cut these taxes. I'm going to do this and that. Guess what? He can talk to the legislative branch and say, hey, I would like these things done. And it's those guys that have to get it done. Okay. They have to be the ones that say, all right, we're going to consider that. And it's just crazy that anybody would think that him wanting to cut taxes so people could start businesses, because you need money to start a business, have jobs over here. How many people think that we need more like blue collar workers, right? My generation, you guys, I graduated in 2004, but we were programmed to think that you had to go to college and, sort of like you didn't have any physical skills with your hands, so to speak, like builders and stuff like that. It was like, okay, read books and, go work, do computer shit, do technology. That's what they were pushing on my generation. Now we've got a whole generation, mine, that doesn't know how to do that shit. It's like completely illiterate. Why? Because the public school system forced that shit down our throat. How many people know how to build houses? Now, thank God there's still men out there that know how to do shit, right? There's actually men out there that know how to do that. And I pray to God you pass that shit down to your kids. How many of you know how to work on a car? Just fix shit around your house. How many of you could do that? Most can't. Anything breaks, they panic. They're like, I'm fucked. I get it, right? Now, thank God I have a husband who can do all that shit. But if I didn't have him, I would be that one that would be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And now I have to go spend hundreds of dollars to go fix the shit. I think we need to have more trades over here. We need to be making our own steel and all the stuff we need our own crap. And we need people that are teaching the younger generation how to do that. Why would that be considered a bad thing? Why would we want a weak military? Especially think about this. We had this last administration came in, allowed all these fucking illegals to come into our country, raping the women and the children, breaking into homes, doing all kinds of foul ass shit. And you don't think that we don't need a strong military or strong support? Remember when they wanted to defund the police? Under what administration was that? Was that not the last administration underneath Biden and all his little shitty fucking friends? Do you not think we don't need police officers with the amount of illegal activity that has happened all over the country? These people that endanger their lives, the ICE agents that are, they're doing their fucking job to follow constitutional law, to follow the laws that were in place. Constitutional law is not just following the Constitution, but it's enforcing the laws that Congress has made. Now, if you don't like some of the laws that Congress made, you probably should go ahead and get rid of some of these shitty ass fucking legislators and representatives and senators, right? That's the legislative branch. It's your senators, it's your representatives. If you don't like the laws they're passing, you got to get their asses out. You got to vote them out. This is why you got to pay attention to what the hell's going on. But law is law, even if it's a shitty law, even if you don't like the law. They still passed it, and we allowed it because we voted them in. But the point is that the laws that the legislative branch of government has created, it has to be followed, okay? So people are hired to enforce those laws, like the president. What's his job? His job is to make sure that all of the laws in the United States are faithfully executed, okay? Now, I'll tell you this. I didn't know this, but you guys know executive orders? Did you know that there's nothing in the Constitution that actually says that they can pass an executive order? But do you know where they get it from? So if you go to Article 3, I think it's Section 2. Hold on, you guys. I'm getting it out right now. Okay, let's see here. Is it Section 3? That's Article 3. But the point is that the president, just because his primary job is to make sure the laws are enforced, that's why he can do an executive order. It's not because executive orders were in the Constitution. It's because his job in the Constitution says he has to make sure the laws are faithfully executed. Therefore, executive orders were created so he could do that. Now, I'll tell you what, an executive order is only legal if it does not violate any of the laws that were passed. And an executive order cannot make a new law. They cannot create shit that has not gone through Congress. But this is what an executive order is supposed to do. An executive order is supposed to define the process for the law to be enforced. That's all it's doing. It's the policy for the law to be enforced. That is it. But that law was already created. So I'll tell you what, if you're paying attention and you're like, wow, I can't believe there's an executive order for this law and this law and this law. You know, I told you earlier, they pass thousands of laws all the time behind our back. And we made it that way for representative government because we're supposed to trust our representative to be honest and make good laws. But a lot of them, turn to crooked ass shit as soon as they get in there these days. Remember, they get bought out by all the lobbyists and all the people that, I'll give you money to the campaign if you do what I want, if you do what I say, right? They're doing all these backhand deals, but that's how it goes, you guys. But anyway, the point is if you look at what's happening, if you look at the reality of the country, and then you look at what the president wants to do, how could you call that fascism? Like, we need a strong nation, and we don't have a strong nation because it's filled up with a bunch of fucking illegals that shouldn't have gotten here to begin with because we had a bunch of people that were not enforcing the laws. Do you guys want a nation that's full of illegal immigrants that are criminals, rapists, gang members? Do you want them posted up in here? Fuck no. They need to get their asses out. We got enough shit to deal with in our country, let alone paying for their shit, right? And that's what they all do. They come over here and they take advantage of us, and they laugh at it. They laugh all the way to the bank too. I've seen videos of the shit. They're like, man, I wouldn't even be here. Like, you guys give me lots of money. Like, yeah, I bet. And a lot of Americans are suffering. Where's your tax money back in your pocket? It ain't, because they're all using it for fucking the bullshit that they've been funding for a long time. But anyway, I digress, you guys. I'm gonna get off here. I just wanted to share that with you. Persecution is happening to Christians in the United States. It's not their heads getting chopped off. And if you really pay attention to what's going on, you know, it's not fascism. It's like, look at the reality of it. How much debt do we have? How many jobs have we created? Are there people starting companies in the United States? What's the tax rate? This is stuff that most Americans don't even know and pay attention to, right? All he is trying to do is, you know, help fix the country, because a lot of people that have been in there have been fucking it up, and it's obvious. And that's why he got voted in. It's not because, oh yeah, everybody's just, people think that a lot of people that voted Trump in are just blind and they're just following him. No, actually, we looked at what was going on. We looked at the illegal immigration. We looked at the national debt. We looked at the lack of jobs. We looked at what's been happening with our individual rights and how there's been censorship that was going on and all of that stuff. And we said, we don't want that shit anymore. And that's exactly why he got voted in. It wasn't because they're just blindly following somebody like most people assume. It's because people are paying attention. And they said, we want to be able to prosper. We want our taxes lowered. We want a safe country. Okay? We're tired of being censored. We're tired of having this shit thrown down our throat with the freaking transgender shit and boys going into girls' locker rooms and all this crap. Americans were doing their homework, and they said, that is the reason that we're putting this guy in here, because of this shit. Not because we have our head up our ass and we're just going to vote him because we don't even know why. We just like what he has to say. No, bullshit. A lot of Americans have done their homework, okay? A lot of people who say that about Trump supporters are the same ones who voted for Obama because he was black, okay? So who is voting mindlessly at that point? Oh, you're black, I'm going to vote for you. I don't know what your policies are. I don't know why I'm voting for you. I don't know, you know, what's happening in my country to think of, man, would his ideas actually help my country, help my family, help my individual rights? They weren't thinking about that. They're just like, wow, he seems like a pretty cool dude. And we've never had a black president before, so we'll just go ahead and vote him in. Oh, what about Kamala Harris? You know what? She's a woman. So we're just going to go ahead and vote her ass in just because she has breasts. Are you kidding me? Who's the mindless person at that point? Why were you going to vote her in? What was she going to do to actually help the country? A lot of them are like, oh, they don't even say, I don't know. They'll say something like, I don't need to tell you that. Like showing their ignorance that way, right? Like, I'm so smart, I don't even have to tell you. Go figure it out yourself. They say that because they've never done the homework themselves. They don't even know who these people are. They just vote for them because that's what they're told to do. They don't sit back and ask, what's going on? What am I upset about? How are these policies or what's happening in my nation affecting me? They don't ask those questions. They just do what they're told because they're slaves. So anyway, you guys have an awesome rest of the day. I'm going to get off here. I just want to share this with you. I think it's important information. And I'll talk to you all next time.